Alright, good afternoon everybody. My name is Wandering Mist and I'm here today to talk about setting up for your web development on a local machine. If you're watching this video, chances are you're from the Scrimba learning community and you've been following the course on Scrimba using their built-in editor, and now you're thinking, right, now is the time I want to fly the nest and work on my own local machine and get set up there, but you're not sure where to start. That's okay. We're going to set it up together. For this, we'll need a couple of things. So first of all, we're going to need a code editor. We're going to need somewhere where we can write our code for our website. So there are lots of different code editors out there. The one that I use and the one that I'd recommend you guys use is Visual Studio Code. So all the links for everything will be in the video description, but here is Visual Studio Code. It's multi-platform, so it works on Windows, it works on Linux, it works on Mac, absolutely fine. All you need to do is you'll go to this page here, so it's code.visualstudio.com/download. It's completely free. It's developed by Microsoft, but it's completely free and allows us to do everything that we need. So if you haven't done so, you go to this webpage and you will download. Okay. Now I've already downloaded and installed it all, but once you've downloaded, run through the setup. It does it all for you and gets you set up that way, no problems at all. Okay. And then you will have, when you open up Visual Studio Code initially, it will look something like this. Okay, so now we've got Visual Studio, but how do we use it? Okay, what we're going to do is you can create a new project. So I'm just going to quickly go onto my desktop here and I'm going to create a new folder. I am running on Windows 11, but whatever, works the same way. A new folder, and I'm just going to call this test, just so I can test stuff out. So there we go. So there's a couple of ways we need to open this folder in Visual Studio. So there's a couple of ways we can do that. I can either right click on here and then go to open with code. Okay. If you're running on Windows 11 like me, you'll have to go to the show more options button and then click open with code. If you're on Windows 10 or below, it should just open like this with open with code. If for whatever reason you don't see this option, then what you can do is just open Visual Studio Code, you get this blank screen, and you can either go to File and Open Folder this way, or you can just get your folder, drag it and drop it in. And there we have our project. You can see on the left-hand side here, we've got the Explorer tab. This details all of the files that are in our project. At the moment, we've got no files, it's just empty. Okay. If I want to add a file, all I have to do is right-click, click New File. So I'm going to create a new file, which is index.html. Index.html, enter, and there. And now I can start coding in here. Okay. So that's all well and good. But this is a wonderful thing about Visual Studio Code is that we can add stuff onto it. There's something called extensions. Extensions are ways of altering the program to make it do different things. And there are a ton of different extensions out there. The way we can access the extensions is down here on the left-hand side, we've got the Explorer. And down here, these four little boxes, we've got extensions, so we can click on that. And there are a lot of extensions. I've installed quite a few already, and there are lots more for all kinds of programming things that you'd want to do. What I'd like you to do is to download and install the extension called Live Server. So in the search bar along the top, we go Live Server, and it's right here. Okay, I've already installed it, which is why I have the uninstall, but if you haven't, you'll have an install button. You click on the install button and it just puts it onto your program and then you can use it. Okay, and the way you know it's done properly is down here in the bottom right hand corner, there's a little go live button. Click to run live server, and I'll show you what that does in just a moment. Okay, so that's all fine. And like I said, there are lots of different extensions that you can use for changing different things. It's fantastic. Okay, so I'm actually going to go back to this other project that I have. So this, if any of you have done the Scrimba courses, you might be familiar. This is the little project that they give us in Module 2. Okay, and I've got it up here. So here it is. Now, let's say that I've been coding and I want to show it on the green. That's absolutely fine. So what I can do, I'm just going to close out this tab. So I've got a new tab here, and let's just say that I've been doing some stuff on this project. I'm actually going to get rid of these. Okay, save the project. I'm ready to see it in my web browser. Fantastic. So all I have to do now, I've got the live server extension. Live server, basically, it creates a server on your computer that will then automatically update the web browser with any changes that you make. It's very, very handy. So what I'm going to do here is down at the bottom, I'm going to say click to run live server. Like that, it says starting, and now it's running. It's running the server on port 5500. Fantastic. And there you can see immediately in my web browser, it's come up. That's fantastic. I love it. If you didn't have live server, then the way you would get your project in the web browser is you would find your project in the folders on your computer. The way you can do that is if you just go to your index.html, right click and reveal in File Explorer. If you're running on Mac or Linux, there might be a slightly different command, but it'll be something quite recognizable for that. And we can click this, and then it brings up our project here. Okay, and then you would open the index.html, and there we are. You see now I've got two tabs. This is the tab from the live server, and this is the one that I've just opened up, and you can see the folder that's listed there. Okay, so it then begs the question, why use live server in the first place? What benefit does it have? Well, it has automatic updating, which is a fantastic feature. It basically means that we don't have to refresh our web page to see every single change that we make. It does it automatically for you. So I'm going to demonstrate this. What I'm going to do in my code, my index.html, we're here. I'm going to let's add some exclamation marks here. So we're here. So, hi, I'm Wandering Mist. Okay. And I'm going to click save. Okay, so I've saved the file. So now if we have a look at my page, here's the page that I opened up just by going into the folder and opening the folder in the web browser. See, it hasn't changed. There's no exclamation marks in front of Mist. But if I go to, this is the tab where I have the live server. You see, without me having to have done anything, I have these exclamation marks. Yeah? And if I were to change, actually, let's just do it so we have here. So this will only update when I refresh the page, and there we go, it's there. Yeah, but with the live server, again, if I change this, let's change this to question marks, and I click save, see immediately right there. Whereas with the other page, it's still on the exclamation marks until I click refresh on the web browser. So that's live server, and live server has some other benefits as well when you get into the more advanced later projects, which we cover later on. So that's pretty much that. In terms of what else to use with Visual Studio Code, there are lots of different things you can do. I'm not going to go into all of them because they are quite in depth, but you can have a look online. One thing I would recommend doing is going to the help bar and then to keyboard shortcuts. Okay, keyboard shortcuts, and that brings up a reference page in your web browser, and you can view everything there. Okay, so that's the basics of using Visual Studio Code. That's all set up, ready to go. It works pretty much out of the box. Now, if you're doing the more advanced projects, then you'll need to have some extra things, and one of the things you'll need is called Node. Okay, so Node is, as it says here, so I'm in my browser and I'm at nodejs.org, And again, the link will be in the video description, so you can go straight to this page. What is Node? Node is a open source, cross-platform JavaScript runtime environment. Okay? What does that mean? That's a whole bunch of jargon. What does it mean? So, let's break it down. Open source just means that the code that runs this program is available for anyone to view. That's all that means. Cross-platform means it works on all platforms. Yeah, Windows, Mac, Linux, it works on all of them perfectly fine. JavaScript, so that's our language. Yeah, remember that when we're doing web development, most of the coding that we do is in JavaScript, and so it's a JavaScript and it's a runtime environment. What does that mean? Well, the thing about JavaScript is that it was originally designed to work in the web browser. But obviously, when we're coding on our local machines, we're not going to necessarily have the web browser open all the time. And we need to be able to use JavaScript on our local machine, not necessarily in the web browser. So this NodeJS allows us to do that. It allows us to use JavaScript code inside VSCode on our local machines. Okay, so with that done, download for Windows. Yeah, if you're not on Windows, you go to the downloads page and click the installer that you want. You want to go for the LTS right here. So this is the most stable build. The current build has the latest features, like it's the most technically up to date, but it's not necessarily stable yet. Whereas the LTS is stable, so that's the one that I would go for to cause the least amount of issues. Okay, so we download this. Again, it has an installer. Install it through, no problems at all. Once you've got it installed, we want to check to make sure that it's actually being installed properly. So to do that, we're going to go into Visual Studio Code, and we're going to use the terminal. The terminal is very important. It allows us to do a ton of things, and it's a command prompt. Now, don't worry. If you've never used the command prompt before, it looks scary. You've just got this text. There's no user interface at all. It's just a bunch of text that we have to input commands on. Don't worry. You don't need to know a lot just to get started. Okay, so we're going to use Node, and we want to make sure that Node has been installed properly. So in our terminal, type this out with me. We're going to say node space -v and click enter. And you see here, it comes back with a version number. Okay, and this tells us that Node has been installed successfully because we got this version number. If you get nothing back or you get an error back, then Node hasn't been installed correctly and you'll need to troubleshoot a little bit to get it working again. Probably just reinstall it. Okay, but that works, that's fine. Okay, now in addition to Node, we also have access to something else. So when Node got installed, it also installed something called NPM. NPM stands for Node Package Manager. And we can see that here. If we go NPM space -v, and you see we get another version back. Okay, so NPM, Node Package Manager. So what does that mean? Packages are essentially small programs or pieces of code that other people have written that allows us to do different things. And it means that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to code everything from scratch. If we've got a rather advanced feature, let's say you wanted to add animations, like really complex animations to your website, really fancy stuff. Instead of having to code all of that yourself from scratch, which is a very big pain, there's probably a package out there that somebody else has written that we can access. So we can use NPM to do that. So how do we do that? Okay, how do we do that? Well, first of all, we need to tell Visual Studio Code that we are creating a Node project. So I'm just going to delete this index.html. So it's nice and clear. So in this test folder, we've got absolutely nothing at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this command. Type this out with me. We're going to go npm init space -y. Okay, so what does this do? Init stands for initialization. Okay, so we're telling Node we want to initialize a Node, an NPM project, and then the -y is just us saying to the program any questions that it asks us, just say yes to all of them. Just use the default settings, in other words. Okay, so npm init -y and enter. Okay, so we can see it's given us a bit things in the terminal. Okay, these are the default settings for our project. Okay, and up here you can see it's created a file for us called a package.json file. Okay, package.json. So if I just have a look in here, if I open this up, so this is where a lot of the information about our project lives, the name, the version, the description, okay? It's also where we can define scripts, which are just commands that we can run automatically in the terminal. And this is basically the starting point. So we've got our project now. Bearing in mind it doesn't actually do anything, but we have a project. So what are we going to do? We can use npm to add a package. So back down in the terminal, type this out with me. We're going to go npm install and then webpack. It's going to take a little time to install, depending on how fast your internet connection is. But then once it's done, okay, few other things have happened. So in the terminal, it says here, it's added 77 packages. Okay, so it's added quite a lot. So what npm does is we've said we want this package called webpack. So there's a repository of all these packages, and npm basically goes to that repository. It looks for a package called webpack. If it finds it, it brings it into our project and also installs any dependencies that that webpack package has so that it'll work properly in our project. Okay. If we have a look at the project structure, you can see a couple of things have changed. We've got a couple of extra things. We've got a package lock.json file and also a node modules folder. Okay. If we keep looking at our package.json file, you see there's a new thing added called dependencies. Okay. Dependencies here. So for npm, I want you to think of npm like a supermarket. Okay, it's a supermarket where as programmers we can go to the supermarket and we can get packages and bring them into our project. Okay, the dependencies in the package.json file is a shopping list. It's a listing of all the packages that we are using in our project. Okay, and this is very handy, and I'll show you why a bit later on. Okay, so that's that. The node modules folder is where all of the files for the packages are stored. Yeah, so everything related to Webpack, all the files that run it are stored in here. Okay, everything's there. Now, most of the time, you won't have to do anything with any of these files in node modules. So we can just keep that there. It's there, we know it's there, but we don't need to touch it. Okay? The package lock.json file basically takes all of the files in the node modules folder, bundles them all together, and links that to our project. Okay? You shouldn't need to do anything with the package lock.json file. So we just leave it alone. The only thing you should need to work with is the package.json file. Let's say, for example, that something went wrong and we've had to delete this node modules folder. Or maybe we've downloaded somebody else's project from the internet and it hasn't got a node modules folder. So let's just delete this for the moment. So it's gone. Okay. Now, I said before that the package.json, these dependencies are a shopping list. So what we can do, if we haven't got a node modules folder, we can tell npm to grab all of our packages using the package.json file. So in your terminal, what I'd like you to do is type this out with me, npm install, enter. Okay, so this command, this npm install, this basically, it tells our program to look in the package.json file and to look at the dependencies and install all of the dependencies that are listed, all in one go. Yeah, and you can see once I've done that, our node modules folder is back again. Okay, and that's pretty much it for the basics of using Visual Studio Code and for getting started with Node and NPM. We will be going into more detail in the future videos. I'll be showing you exactly why we need Node and NPM to run this, but for now, that'll do. So I hope that's been helpful, guys. If you have any questions, look me up on the Scrimba Discord and I'll answer any questions you have. Until then, have a fantastic day and keep coding. Thanks very much. Goodbye.